Good Friday morning. We've made it to the weekend. Just about what a weekend it's going to be here in the mid-Atlantic. And for so much of the eastern and southeastern United States, right now, the central part of the country kind of bracing for this massive winter storm that is grabbing all the headlines in terms of weather across the country today. The latest on this massive storm as it works east and eventually spreads snow and wintry weather. We're talking bitter cold wind chills. There's going to be large amounts of snow in some areas. There's going to be a lot of ice in other areas and some pretty gusty winds as well. So plenty to talk about with this massive storm system. In addition to that, we're really going to focus on what's happening with our regional storm preps. We've got some live interviews coming up with colleagues from Northern Virginia and from down in North Carolina as well. We're also going to talk with NCDOT. We're going to hear what they're doing to prepare the roads down that way, and we're going to talk with somebody live with Dominion Energy as they are bracing for potential ice. And you know how bad ice can be on the power grids. That can create issues with the power lines and some other things going on. So Dominion Energy, they always have a plan and they're ready to go. We'll talk with them about that. Again, a live interview with Caitlin McGrath from WUSA talking about what's happening up north and what they're preparing for. And we've got Chris Mulcahy ready to go down in Charlotte to talk about some concerns down to the south. We also will have team coverage with Hunter Forst a little bit later on. We'll talk more about the ice, what's been changing over the past couple of days in those snow totals. If you're holding out for a little more snow, the Euro's trending back with a little more snow for parts of Hampton Roads. So a lot to break down for you as we go. Right now, as you can see, there are winter storm watches in effect, not only here in Virginia, but across North Carolina and all the way out here. You see these areas shaded in pink. These are all areas under winter storm warning. Now, there's a lot of different colors on the map here. This light purple, these are winter weather advisories where they're still going to deal with issues like really cold conditions and snow, maybe a little bit of mixed precipitation, some of those areas, but basically it's a little bit lesser, the impacts, than those of the winter storm warning. Those are the areas really in bad shape. And then you take a look at these areas in dark purple, and you hate to see this, especially down south, northern Mississippi, including Tupelo, all the way up into southern portions of Tennessee. That's an ice storm warning. Again, they don't handle snow very well down there, and you get ice, and that can be even worse. So that's going to be a major concern from just north of Jackson up through Tupelo and then south of Memphis. Memphis is under the winter storm warning, but it's an ice warning just down to the south, to the southeast of that. As we turn our attention to the northeast part of Georgia, I wanted to zoom in a little bit more. Murrayville, one of the areas just north of Athens. You can see those areas in northeast Georgia under an ice storm warning. That does not include Atlanta. Atlanta is included in the winter storm watch, and this will likely transition to a winter storm warning a bit later on. But there's that ice storm warning for the northeast part of Georgia. Then you take a look up to the northeast. Winter storm watch is up. There's a winter storm warning already for some of the snow already cranking up off of Lake Ontario there with the very cold Arctic air settling in. And while they're under warnings around Pittsburgh, the eastern part of Pennsylvania, just under watch, we will likely later today see the watches flip over to warnings. And there may be some winter weather advisories for a couple areas right here at the coast, but mostly I think we'll see this becoming a winter storm warning, and we'll just wait for word from the National Weather Service. Again, that should happen later this afternoon. So that's what's happening right now in terms of watches and advisories, warnings. The headlines: Arctic air is arriving in Hampton Roads tonight. It's going to get here. We're also going to deal with gusty winds up around 35 miles per hour, maybe a few closer to 40 at times. So it's going to be very blustery and bitterly cold. Early Saturday, we have a cold weather advisory, and the snow is going to arrive Saturday evening. We'll time all that out for you, and the snow then will transition to mix and then eventually rain later Sunday morning. We'll see periods of rain for the immediate Hampton Roads area with some mixing farther inland. And then Monday, the whole system exits early in the day. Here's a look at what's happening right now. You can see the rain showers, a few sprinkles showing up down south of the Albemarle. That's not a real big deal. That's very, very light. A few more showers southern parts of North Carolina. We're going to see more moisture streaming in. I wanted to show you where that Arctic front is. There it is. And again, high pressure building. This is where the really cold air is. This is going to advance to the east and to the southeast. And that's what's going to be in place when moisture streams into the picture. So here's how things are going to be coming up as we go along. You're going to see this moisture and this energy kind of transfer to the east. You'll see that freezing rain potential with some sleet in there as well, but freezing rain a concern across portions of Texas, northern Louisiana, southern Arkansas, back across northern Mississippi, as I mentioned, into Alabama, southern parts of Tennessee. This is through Saturday afternoon. By Saturday evening, the snow arrives, maybe some freezing rain down to the south. And then as we go through the overnight, eventually we're going to get some surge of slightly warmer temperatures, even at the surface. That's why we're going to see more of a transition Sunday to mix and then rain. But look at the ice potential back across the Carolinas inland and up through central and northern Virginia. Heavy snow for the northeast. That's the GFS model showing that exit there on Monday. Now, you look at the Euro. Is this going to be a lot different from the GFS? Not really. The models are lining up. So again, high confidence this is all coming together. You see the widespread snow, heavy snow at that for a swath here across the central part of the country. That mix and freezing kind of working in as well. This one bringing in a little more warmth, so more of a transition to rain there. But we've got this cold air kind of wedged in, what we call cold air damming taking place here through the day on Sunday. That's why we've got to watch out for additional icing back across the Piedmonts and towards the mountains. Here at the coast, a little more rain mixing in here. And then again, it exits on Monday. Lots to consider here as both Virginia and North Carolina are under states of emergency. And of course, we've declared our weather impact alert. I actually called this Monday, looking ahead, the models were so certain we were going to have this winter storm. At the time, they were projecting a lot of snow. He said, hey, let's give it time. Let's watch and see how things evolve. And they have. So now it became apparent really a couple days ago. It was Tuesday into Wednesday, Tuesday night into early Wednesday, that ice was going to become a bigger issue. Here's what you can expect. Brutal cold air arrives Friday night with single-digit wind chills early Saturday morning. Snow for most of the region Saturday evening. We're talking about for Hampton Roads, southeast Virginia, northeast North Carolina. Again, we'll show you the expanded maps here and a look at the entire region coming up. But for Hampton Roads, I expect snow for most of the area late Saturday evening and into early Sunday. And then a transition from the snow to sleet, some freezing rain and ice, and then eventually to rain. That'll be Sunday morning, and it's going to start off south and east, right along the Outer Banks, and then continue to move northwestward as the morning continues with more rain showers later in the day. All right, we mentioned the cold weather advisory. You want to talk about some cold air across the region. Wind chills 5 degrees below zero to 5 degrees in some areas. That's how cold it's going to be. Now, those coldest readings will be off to the north. Take a look at the wind chill projections with our Futurecast. Tappahannock, 4 or 5 degrees below zero. Richmond, 4 below zero. Petersburg, a couple degrees below zero. It should feel like it's around zero. Williamsburg, Gloucester, and Cape Charles, single-digit wind chills potentially early Saturday morning here across the south side as well, and even into North Carolina. Again, that's one of the models that we're taking a look at, but you get a feel for just how cold it is and why the National Weather Service has issued this cold weather advisory. Now, we take a look at the wind chills. Eventually, they're going to get back up into the double digits, and we're going to see it feeling like it's more like the teens through the day Saturday. That is a windy, chilly day. Air temperatures upper 20s. Maybe close to 30 or so. And then as we get into our overnight hours, Saturday after sunset, snow is going to move in. We'll get into the Futurecast here in a moment and time it all out for you. But take a look at the snow projections here with the GFS and the Euro. Now, the GFS has been kind of hanging around 3 inches or so for Norfolk. It's interesting to note the Euro has come back with 4.5 inches projected for Norfolk. Yesterday, the Euro, and the day before, actually the past few days, the Euro had been saying, nope, it's going to be mostly mix and rain, and they had us only around a half an inch to an inch. Now they bumped up those totals for Virginia Beach and Norfolk. So it's kind of interesting. The models have consistently shown heavier amounts, Richmond, Tappahannock areas across northern Virginia. And as I mentioned, we will talk to one of my colleagues from up in northern Virginia about what they're looking at coming up in just a bit. All right, as we take a look at our forecast for snowfall right now, and this may change a little bit, we're still more than 24 hours, we're almost 36 hours out, 30 hours out from the onset of the snow. So we may bump these numbers a little bit. But right now we're looking at 1 to 3 before that changeover to sleet and ice and eventually rain across the south side. I think 3 to 6 for the peninsula, middle peninsula out to the west and up across the eastern shore there. And as you go farther north up into the purple, that's where you're seeing 6 to 8 inches, locally higher. There is some question as to whether some drier air may mix in and kind of taper some of those snowfalls. We'll see to the north, but I do think they're going to be at least those types of numbers and then some heavier amounts even farther north. So that's the way things are looking. We will see that transition. Here's the big concern for inland areas. It's the ice. And again, this is the Euro's ice potential. More reasonable numbers, but still a lot with projecting over half an inch several areas out along I-95. So this ice potential continues, and it will be down across North Carolina as well. As far as the precip types, highly confident in our forecast. Snow mix, sleet, freezing rain, and a transition to rain at the coast. That we're very certain of. As we take a look at the snow totals, moderate to high confidence now. This is trending up because the models are starting to line up, and the timing has been very consistent for quite a while. So we feel good that it's going to start late Saturday, continue through Sunday, and then move out the system, the backside on Monday. All right, we'll take a quick look at this, and we're going to focus on the spread of the wintry precipitation as it moves along. We are going to find this spreading into our region, and we're going to take a look right now, as I mentioned, this massive winter storm and the preps that are going on to our south. North Carolina Governor Josh Stein declared a state of emergency ahead of the storm. He gave an update on emergency response efforts yesterday morning. Let's listen to some of what he had to say.
We've activated the State Emergency Response Team, which is a cross-agency group that includes the Department of Transportation, the Department of Public Safety, the North Carolina National Guard, the State Highway Patrol, and our state's utilities. At this time, our greatest concerns are potential power outages and road safety over the coming days. Ice accumulation may lead to power outages, and we recommend everyone keep their devices charged, have a flashlight and battery-operated radio on hand, and think about what you may need to stay warm and fed if you lose power.
Governor Stein says more than 2,000 NCDOT crew members are on standby to help with the storm response this weekend. All right, the North Carolina Department of Transportation has been preparing for this storm for days now. And joining me to talk more about how NCDOT crews are getting the roads ready, Tim Haas with NCDOT Division 1. Tim, thanks so much for joining us. Let's get right into it. How are you guys doing, and are you ready to go?
We're getting ready to go. We spent all of the day yesterday here in northeastern North Carolina brining pretty much across the division. From the Outer Banks close to I-95. And then we're going to wrap that up this morning and switch over to de-icing equipment because we expect things to start happening, as you've said, tomorrow night. So we're getting everything ready. We're brining. We're going to get ready to de-ice and plow as the storm comes.
I know you're with Division 1, but I'm interested to know, as you take a look at the entire state, we've got the eastern portions, probably a little more rain in the mix, central parts of North Carolina hit, and then out to the mountains. You guys are looking at several areas with potentially a lot of ice, and that leads to a whole host of issues.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if the ice storm forecasts are accurate, there are places in this state where you should not be driving. Ice, anyone who's ever tried to drive on ice knows it is a completely different story than snow. So if those ice totals become accurate, the best idea is to stay home.
Yeah, I will say a little bit, and at this point you're always looking for any bit of encouragement with these things, but some of the modeling on the ice has come down just a little bit from what we were looking at a day or two ago. It would be great if that trend continues and it becomes less of an issue, but it does look pretty likely that we will deal with ice across the area. What advice would you give motorists? And again, some of this stuff may seem like common sense, but I think folks need to hear it time and time again. When you've got crews out there working, what advice would you say to other folks that may be thinking about trying to head out?
Well, first of all, people wherever they are in the state, Northeast, North Carolina, Piedmont Mountains, be keenly aware of the conditions in your specific area. As you well know, these kind of storms, it can be rain in 1 mile, a few miles away, it's snow, and a few miles away, it's ice. So be keenly aware of the conditions in your area. Keep tuned to drivenc.gov because that will tell you if roads are closed. And if you see a plow, don't try to pass it on the left. That you can get snow into your windshield, not be able to see, and go off into a ditch. So give the plows, give the de-icing equipment room to work and slow down. If you do go out, slow down, give yourself plenty of room to stop. And again, if there's icing conditions in your area, the best idea is to just stay home.
Yeah. Great advice here. And again, give those trucks plenty of room. You know, I think everybody's had at some point, if you've been behind a truck dropping salt or sand or whatever, sometimes that stuff can kick up off the roads a little bit as well. So for your own sake, for the cars around you and for the safety, let's give them some extra space. Tim, I want to thank you so much. Before I let you go, you know, we've talked a lot about Hurricane Helene and the recovery efforts. NCDOT's done a tremendous job just trying to repair a lot of those projects. Have you heard anything kind of along the vine there about how this winter weather can impact some of the efforts going on in some of the big state projects?
Well, I mean, you know, obviously, if those conditions occur, they're going to have to slow down some of those projects, but they'll get right back at it as soon as the weather gets better.
Tim, thank you so much for taking some time out. Again, good luck this weekend. I know everybody's going to be busy, and we thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right. All right. We're going to take a short break. And when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about the impacts of the ice accumulation. And we're going to talk more about how everybody's getting ready. Stay tuned. All right, we were talking with NCDOT about their preps. It looks like folks in North Carolina may be dealing with some ice, especially central and western parts of North Carolina, bracing for that. I wanted to show you kind of the impacts of ice. You get a quarter inch or less, you want to avoid unnecessary travel. I mean, why take chances of slipping or sliding? Light ice on trees and scattered power outages, that's always a concern with any amount of ice. But once you get to a quarter to a half an inch, you have icy roads, broken tree limbs, and numerous power outages. When you get above a half inch, it's a half inch or more, roads are dangerous and in some cases impassable. Widespread tree damage is likely, and there can be long-term outages possible as well. Now, I bring those up. Again, half inch or more is where we get into a lot of trouble, and you can see some of those totals maybe up around Lynchburg or Blacksburg, up towards Charlottesville. This is one of our models, the graph model. It projects some pretty heavy ice out in that area. I will tell you the global models like the Euro producing even more across western parts of the viewing area out towards I-95. And there is this ice potential down in North Carolina. That has been a big concern. And as this storm gets closer to us, we want to give you a good look at what other forecasters across the region are also keeping an eye on. I'm going to throw it over to Chris Mulcahy. How are you, man? At WCNC, it's good to have you. We worked together a few years ago covering a Hurricane Florence back in 2018. You're doing a great job. How busy are you now?
Very busy, but I'm glad that I had some time with you, Craig. So the funny thing is 2018 was Florence, but 2018 was also the last time that we had a significant really event here as far as even snow goes for the Charlotte area. But the craziest thing is that we are now looking at widespread sleet followed by widespread freezing rain. And this is going to be historic. We're talking about ice totals, as you mentioned, about a quarter to a half inch. At that point, it could be crippling. You show the impacts. We're embracing that, and I think we're going to have at least 100,000 without power across North Carolina in general.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. You know, you talk about, I was surprised to hear you just mention it's been about that long since you guys have had a major ice event like this. What is kind of the mindset of people in your region? I know you and Brad and the entire team do a great job down there, but do they really understand what these threats are, or is this such a rare thing that maybe you worry about them not taking all the precautions?
There is a mix. All you have to do is look at the comments online. Yeah. There are a lot of doubters out there, and I'm sure you're getting it as well. They're like, oh, it'll be just rain. I was like, it'll be freezing rain. So I've been doing everything where you want to kind of be on that level of like, you don't want to be an extremist. You don't want to go over the top. But this is significant. The snow that you're going to get and the ice that we could get is crippling. And I actually sent you a graphic, and I hope that you're hungry because I want to talk about donuts, because the biggest problem that we've been dealing with is people haven't really understood the difference between sleet and freezing rain. My man Brad Panovich made this. So picture sleet as little balls or little sprinkle balls that you're seeing here. That drops on the donut, and some could fall on different spots, but eventually it'll start to stick. The freezing rain is that glaze. That's my favorite right there. But what we're going to see for a situation, I have another graphic that's going to encapsulate this, is we're going to have those sprinkles and we're going to throw the glaze on top. So we're talking about 1 to 3 inches of sleet, and then that could be just a sheet of ice in general. So you have that all trapped, glued together with a quarter to about a half inch of ice on top of that. That's an absolute mess. And the problem is, I think a lot of people aren't paying attention to this, but I think once it hits Sunday, my biggest concern is that people didn't take the precautions. I think a lot of people are going to stay home on Sunday because they're like, oh, wow, this is bad. But I just hope that they got enough supplies, because already I was at the grocery store. People were sold out of bread, the typicals, the waters were all there. And you actually brought up one thing about Helene. We have a lot of people that are still in trailers in the North Carolina mountains, and I'm worried that they're going to lose power. They don't really have the necessary shelter. So I just really hope that everyone is prepared for this, especially if the power goes out, because the last time that we had an event like this, we had over 100,000 without power in 2016. 2002, we had more power outages than Hugo
Wow.
1.8 to 2 million, and we had up to about an inch of ice, but I don't think it's going to be as bad as that, Craig.
If things come together the way you guys are projecting there, those are great graphics. I'm a sprinkles guy, by the way, but anyway, you get that kind of ice layering going on. It could essentially make roads impassable for parts of the area. I mean, essentially turning it into an ice rink. And I think folks also need to remember that emergency responders, first responders that may need to answer that medical emergency call or whatever, they may have difficulty accessing some of these areas. So, Chris, obviously you guys have a big job in spreading all of this messaging.
I just want to say I'm actually jealous of you because everyone here wants the snow, even though you know the impacts are going to be terrible. But the one thing with snow is that people might be a little bit more risky trying to get out in there. I'm hoping that they know ice is nothing to mess around with. But yeah, I know everyone wants to do snow angels and build snowmen, but you can't do too much with sleet and ice.
Yeah, that is very true. Chris, thank you so much for taking some time out. I know how busy we are here, and I know you're every bit as busy down there in Charlotte. Say hi to Brad, and good luck to you guys through this big wintry mess.
Invite me back. Good to see you again.
We'll do it again. Take care. Chris Mulcahy. All right, let's take a look at what's coming up. We're going to take a short break, and before we get to that break, I was just told we have time for a package because it's not just the emergency crews preparing for the winter storm. We just heard from Chris. Down in North Carolina, residents are starting to stock up on supplies before the blast gets here. From ice melt to groceries, store shelves are emptying. Jamise Pierce from our sister station down in Raleigh reports.
From Costco to Publix and Harris Teeter, the grocery stores are packed tonight across the triangle.
It's a little nuts right now.
Some shelves were empty and key staples like milk and bread were running low or out for now.
The shelves are pretty empty already, so people have definitely been rushing already to pick up different grocery items.
And take a look at this. Long lines inside this Harris Teeter in Durham. The line stretches to the back of the store.
The carts are run out and, parking lot's full.
We met Rachel Schwab outside of Harris Teeter tonight after her grocery store run. She was hoping to beat the rush, but was in the middle of the crowd. She showed us some of the items she was able to pick up.
This is the only size milk they had left in 2% right here. Only size.
Really?
It's little.
We are just days away from a major winter weather event that could bring snow, ice, or sleet. And moms like Taylor Lee want to be prepared.
This is a special trip, actually, preparing for the ice. Well, we did need to go grocery shopping, but it definitely got pushed up a couple of days, so.
The mom of two has a basket full of necessities and the fun food in case the winter weather lasts longer than expected.
Just snacks and, just, of course, some treats so that, I can send them into the other room with the treats and not feel so guilty.
And over at Publix in downtown Raleigh, we caught up with Grant Sillman. He picked up the one thing he'll need.
Mainly water is the biggest thing.
Grant is no stranger to snow, but this time around, he's worried about one thing.
I'm a little bit more worried about the ice because all the trees.
The ice could impact trees and power lines, leaving people in the dark and ruining all the food you just bought. According to foodsafety.gov, a full freezer will hold a safe temperature for about 48 hours if the door remains closed. Food may be safely refrozen if it still contains ice crystals. Otherwise, you'll have to throw out your meats, milk, soft and shredded cheese, eggs, frozen foods, and fresh cut fruit. Meanwhile, families like Taylor's hoping they made enough preparation to get through this weekend's winter weather event.
Making sure that we're stocked full of groceries and that if we get stuck in our house, we have things to do and, backup power sources and stuff.
All right, good to see folks are taking this seriously. All right, we're going to take a quick break, but coming up in just a couple minutes, 2 minutes to be exact, we'll have more on the state of emergency declared in Virginia, plus a closer look at the forecast for Northern Virginia, Maryland, and the D.C. area. And a little later in the show, a live interview with Dominion Energy as they are preparing. Stay tuned. frigid Arctic air in the north central U.S. is going to spill to the east and to the southeast and really impact so much of the country, but especially the northeast and northern Virginia as well. As you see with the futurecast, we do have snow and eventually some mixed precipitation, making for some tricky forecasts across the Commonwealth. And when you look up, it's not just Hampton Roads that's dealing with this tricky transition to mix and eventually some rain here, but you can see northern Virginia and the D.C. area as well. And that's where we find meteorologist Caitlin McGrath with our sister station, WUSA in D.C. And you're standing by with the outlook there. Caitlin, I saw on your Facebook you posted something we were having the same discussions about right here. We didn't want to get the snowfall projections out too early because there was so much variability. I see your numbers now, and I love it. Why don't you fill us in?
Yeah, Craig, I mean, you know, this has been a difficult forecast when it comes to that transition from snow to sleet. But as we get closer to the event, of course, we're gaining confidence in that forecast. So we have put out our first snowfall map. We officially put it out yesterday afternoon. But here's what we're thinking right now. And this is not a one-size-fits-all forecast for our area. We're going to see a transition to sleet earlier for areas down into southern Maryland and the northern neck of Virginia. More prolonged snow off to our north and west. And then you get back into western Maryland, parts of West Virginia. It's going to be a mainly snow event. So that's where we'll get kind of our bullseye totals. That's where we're going with 10 inches to 14 inches at least. There is some indication that a few areas could walk away with higher than 14 inches. But that pink shading that covers the 95 corridor and points off to the west, we're forecasting 6 to 10 inches of snow with, of course, that mix with sleet that makes it so difficult because we're going to have this light, fluffy, beautiful snow that eventually gets compressed with some sleet. So that'll keep some of our totals a little bit at bay. But this is still likely going to be the biggest storm we've had in a decade here for the D.C. area. And then where we see more of a sleet event for areas off to the south and east of D.C., we're going 4 to 6 inches. So still a major storm across our entire area. So we do have a winter storm watch in effect right now. I do think this will get upgraded to a warning for most of our area. Might be a winter weather advisory for those areas where we are forecasting slightly lower snowfall totals, but this will get upgraded, later today into the weekend. But it goes into effect for us Saturday at 7 o'clock, even though our precip time isn't until really later Saturday night, at least that onset. But throughout the day on Sunday, this is going to be a big event for us, and then that will expire around Monday morning at 7 a.m. and the cleanup will very much be underway. So here's what we've got in terms of our weather impact alert for the D.C. area. It's for all day on Sunday because we really do get through most of Saturday totally fine before that snow starts to develop later at night. But throughout the day on Sunday, we're going to have that heavy snow eventually mixing with some sleet. Significant snowfall totals across pretty much the entire area, but especially as you see that more prolonged snow off to the north and west. And Arctic cold. You guys are talking about this as well. We have bitter cold temperatures that settle in tonight and set the stage for this storm and then stick around all the way into next week. So we've been encouraging our viewers here in our area to, of course, prepare to clear the snow. This is going to be a big cleanup, tuning the snow blowers, getting the shovels ready, plenty of ice melt, or making arrangements to help with the snow cleanup if you need a little help from family and friends, maybe some neighbors. And of course, this is going to be, like you've been talking about, a major impact on travel, not just local road travel. We know it can take our area a long time to clean up these roads, but major air travel impacts as well. So it is still an evolving forecast, but as we get closer to the event, we're of course gaining more confidence, and we're feeling pretty good about the precipitation type, starting with a heavy burst of snow and then eventually mixing over to that sleet. And this kind of new just in the past 24 hours, getting more confidence in those snowfall totals, looking at 4 to 14 inches, which yes, is a very big range, but covers a large area across the D.C. region. And the timing really locking in on that too, starting late Saturday night, say between about 8 to 11 o'clock and lasting throughout the day on Sunday. So here's the latest on our timing, and this is Saturday around 6-7 o'clock. We start to see some flurries off to the south and west of D.C., down near Luray, Stanton, and Charlottesville, and then that snow starts to fill in. This is around 11 o'clock. We're starting to see that snow pile on and accumulate across pretty much our entire region. By Sunday morning, this is 3 a.m., so during the pre-dawn hours, we could see snowfall rates between 1 to 2 inches per hour. We're going to wake up to several inches of snow already early Sunday morning. And then by 6, 7 o'clock, you can start to see that sleet line creeping in just to our south. But for our area, still snowing as we head through the early Sunday morning hours. By about 9, 10 o'clock, we do start to see more of a transition over to sleet. First for areas south and southeast of D.C., and then eventually seeing that sleet line creep even farther to the north. And say by lunchtime, we've got sleet falling through parts of Montgomery County, Loudoun County, along and on either side of I-66. But it's those areas closer to the Mason-Dixon line where it is still just snowing that it's going to continue to pile on throughout Sunday afternoon. Eventually, we do think we will see everyone see that transition over to some sleet before the storm slowly starts to pull out of here by later Sunday night, and that's when the cleanup will begin.
So much great information there, and thank you for going into all that detail for our viewers. We have so many people that actually commute all the way up to D.C. several times, a month or weekly from here in Southeast Virginia. Want you to, just for a second, though, take off your meteorologist cap, all right? And I want you to talk to me as a resident up there in the DMV area. How do you feel about the snow, and just what do you think the impact really is to the region as just a living person? What do you think? I mean, is this something that cripples parts of the area for a few days, or you think they take this in stride and kind of roll on? What do you think?
Yeah, Craig, I do think this is going to be a really big one for our area. And I think one of the best things we have going for us is that it is on a Sunday. And we've known about this storm for days. We started talking about it last weekend. So the hope is that everyone has planned and prepared for the storm so they can hunker down on Sunday and be prepared to be home for days. I think we'll see school and business impacts here across the D.C. area well into next week. Monday, Tuesday, possibly even Wednesday. It is a large area, and a lot of our counties kind of clean up snow at a different pace. So the closer you are to D.C., the sooner the cleanup happens. But we have a lot of counties that are so big that it could take another day or two to clear out the snow in that very same county in a more rural part. So I think we're going to see impacts for days here across the area. And we're just hoping that people have heeded the warning, have prepared so that they can stay home and stay safe.
Caitlin, thank you so much. Phenomenal job this morning, and we really appreciate you taking some time out of your busy morning to help us out here on the Weather Desk. Have a good one, and good luck with the storm.
Greg.
All right. So we do have this, again, impacting not just Hampton Roads, but so much of Virginia. And Virginia is also under a state of emergency ahead of this winter storm. During a press briefing yesterday, Governor Abigail Spanberger says VDOT crews have already begun treating the roads. She's urging residents to stay home once the flakes start falling.
I am asking all Virginians to stay off the roads as of Saturday night, all day Sunday, through Monday morning. This will allow not only for the safety and security of our neighbors, but it will allow for faster clearing of roads and ensure greater safety during what we expect will be the most dangerous times on the roads.
Governor Spanberger says the Virginia National Guard is also mobilizing to help with storm response efforts. All right, you can see the travel impacts across the entire region and so much of the eastern U.S. This is early Sunday. We're going to take another short break, and we'll be back with more, including a live interview with Dominion Energy. Welcome back. All right, we've been talking about the ice potential. We heard from Chris down in Charlotte. We heard from Caitlin just up there in D.C. Here's a look at how the ice is likely to play out for our area again into Sunday morning. More transition. Could see some minor amounts of icing early Sunday with more significant amounts coming up a little bit later in the day and overnight into Monday. We are anticipating major ice issues. I will say yesterday, though, this model that I'm showing you had this purplish area for extreme impacts, widespread out here. At least it's been taken down just a little bit. That's a little bit of good news. But the bottom line is, with the mix and the potential for icing, the impact that has on tree limbs that can get weighted down and sometimes break off, or trees that can snap, and the ice buildup on power lines can lead to issues that eventually lead to power outages and, again, down power lines. Crews with Dominion Energy are also taking steps now to make sure your lights stay on during the storm. And joining me now to talk more about those preparations, Matt Hirschberg with Dominion Energy. Good morning, Matt. How's everybody doing over at Dominion?
Well, good morning, Craig, and thank you for having us. As much like you all have, we've been preparing for this storm for about a week now, since we saw it was going to potentially impact our region, and have been preparing from a staffing standpoint, making sure that our equipment is inspected, and just doing any last-minute repairs that can help stabilize the grid, because we do expect impacts from this event, as you mentioned, with the ice accumulation, which can cause damage to power lines, poles, trees that can come down on lines. All of the above can cause issues. So ice is the main concern at this moment.
It is something. You guys do a phenomenal job of pre-staging when there's, let's say, a hurricane or a tropical system coming in. You will get crews positioned. In this case, with it being such a potential widespread issue with icing across the central part of Virginia, how much can you guys kind of pre-stage for this? Or is this one of those things where you kind of have a pretty good idea that you may be dealing with some ice and you just prepare to cover a larger area? Or how are you going about that?
Absolutely. So we are pre-staging crews in certain areas that we expect the most significant impact. More of our central location offices, such as Roanoke Rapids, up through the Suffolk area, and even Williamsburg, we expect the ice to accumulate a little bit heavier there than along the coast. Since this is a system-wide event that's going to affect our Richmond area and our Northern Virginia area, we haven't been able to mobilize or send their crews down, but we do have contractors on site that we've strategically staged in our North Carolina service territory, along with our Virginia service territory. And those crews can maneuver rather quickly around once we kind of know where the impact is. But we have staged crews, and we'll be staging them Saturday night, so they will wake up Sunday ready to respond and repair any outages that may occur.
That's great. That brings up a really interesting point. Now, folks that don't know, I know over the years with major outage events, I think back to Isabel and Irene and some of the big tropical systems and hurricanes that have impacted the region, sometimes there will be other power companies that will send crews to help from other parts of the country. But in this case, with so much of the country being impacted, it may be harder to get that additional help in. Is there anything, is this something where if there are some widespread outages, folks may need to be a little more patient?
Absolutely. Well, yeah, patience is obviously going to be key. Getting around to these locations with the road conditions will be a little bit more challenging than post-hurricane or post-thunderstorm event we incur in the summer. So that will definitely be a little bit of a challenge. We have been able to line up resources from other utilities that will not be impacted from the event and have mutual aid agreements. Once we know where damage is, if some locations to the south or north aren't impacted as much, they will send their resources our way, and vice versa. If our region isn't impacted, we support them just as they do us. So it is a little bit more difficult in this because it's such a widespread event that's affecting so many utilities and so many states up along the coast and even out towards the central part of the United States and Texas. That gathering those resources in advance is a little bit more difficult, but we have been able to get additional resources from folks that are not going to be expecting impacts from this storm.
Yeah, you guys do an amazing job with those partnerships, and we're grateful for it as users. Let me ask you this. As far as power outages go, if folks need to report an outage, where do they go? What's the best way to do it?
Absolutely. So that's super important to make sure you do report your power outage and don't assume that your neighbor's going to report it, because they may not be affected and you may be the only one affected by a certain outage. So do that. The quickest way to do it is go onto the Dominion Energy app, put in your account number and put in your outage. You can also call the 866 DOM helpline and report your outage through that. So a number of different ways to report your outage. And as far as preparing, make sure if you are at home that you have your cell phones fully charged prior to the event beginning, so that you can report if your power does go out and still have a mobile device to do that through. And just stay away from power lines. If you do see something that is down on the ground, report it and then stay in the clear. Let our folks get there. The product that we deal with is very unforgiving, and we want to keep our public safe and our crews safe, and we want to keep that at the forefront throughout the event.
Gotta stay safe. Thank you so much for all your insights, Matt. Great information there. And we will continue to watch all of this and wish Dominion Energy all the best in handling whatever does come our way with the ice this weekend. All right, that's Matt Hirschberg with Dominion Energy. All right, I want to just show you again, when ice accumulates on these power lines, it can weigh a lot. Even a half inch of ice can put 500 pounds of weight on those lines. And once there's ice that accumulates on it and wind blows across it, it gets those lines moving, creates galloping lines, which can come down, sometimes kind of blow into tree limbs or something that are nearby. And that's just some of the ways that we can have down lines and power outages. So we'll be watching all of that. Right now, we're going to take a quick break, another 2-minute break, and we'll be back with more on the storm and the impacts to Hampton Roads. All right, welcome back to the Weather Desk. What a show. We're going a full hour here with the impending winter storm. Want to talk to you about this weather impact alert. First issued it Monday morning. We said, hey, we've got this winter storm. All the models were pointing to the development. And while, the greatest impacts have shifted a little bit, initially it looked like it was going to be a huge snowmaker, then kind of down. It looked more just like an icebreaker. Now it's kind of going back to maybe some more snow here a little bit. We'll talk about that. And then ice inland. But we're also looking at very cold conditions with this Arctic blast that arrives tonight. That's why we've taken what was a Saturday afternoon, evening start through Monday morning and included tomorrow morning, because we do have that cold weather advisory. The impacts, bitterly cold conditions settling in, then a wintry mix, and you do want to stay tuned for updates. My colleague Hunter Forst is standing by at the board. And Hunter, let's talk a little bit more about the timing of this system and the impacts that are coming.
Yeah, the good news is as we head into tomorrow morning and tomorrow afternoon, it's going to be nice and dry. But by the time we get into our Saturday evening, that's when we're going to start to see the snow showers moving on into the region. So if you have any plans tomorrow afternoon, it's just going to be bitterly cold, like Craig was saying. But as we head into the evening, we're going to see some snow heading on in. But then by Sunday morning and into the afternoon, we're going to see more of a wintry mix and even some cold rain, especially closer to the coast, some sleet and freezing rain further inland the closer you get to that 95 corridor. That's going to continue heading into our Sunday night. And then by early Monday morning, we're going to see some more rain showers and even a little bit more of a wintry mix pushing on through. But it's going to be heading out of here. And then by Monday afternoon, we're drying out, but it's still going to be very, very cold, not only on Monday, but as we head through the rest of the upcoming work week. You know, here's a look at the wind gust potential, Craig.
Yeah, well, we were talking about this, Hunter. I wanted to step in with you because we were talking about, you know, the impacts with the ice and potentially some of the power things. We have to talk about the winds. Those wind chills, as you guys were talking yesterday, you had some time talking with Tim and Evan through the afternoon. We're looking at wind chills tomorrow morning, in some cases below zero, like Richmond, Tappahannock, some of those northern areas.
Yeah, you know, Accomack 5 below zero, Williamsburg 0.
Yeah.
I mean, it is going to be brutal tomorrow.
Single-digit wind chills for Hampton Roads as well. We'll talk a little bit about the wind here, and you can see how the winds are forecast to really pick up. We could see some gusts here around Hatteras to 45 miles per hour. It's kind of interesting. We've got the Arctic air in place. The moisture's been streaming in from the Gulf across parts of the southern U.S. But for our area with low pressure forming off the Carolina coast, that's going to enhance some of that wind potentially into Saturday. It's going to be a blustery situation. Winds still gusting close to 30 miles per hour, as folks can see on this graphic here. Even Virginia Beach there, this is through Sunday morning, 4 a.m.
Yeah, and like you were saying, that's also a cause for concern with some of those power outages, especially as we get into our Sunday afternoon. You get a little bit of ice on the power outages, and you were just talking about the shaking, and you get that wind, you know, can loosen up some of those lines, leading to some isolated to even scattered power outages the further west you go.
Yeah, wind blows across the lines and they start that galloping effect. Now, it's interesting here. You'll note the winds shifting to the northwest, but this is what I wanted to share with you here. As we get into Monday afternoon, the system's exiting, but this is where we may have ice on some of those lines inland, and you'll note the winds picking up a little bit more. So something else, even though the main impacts are going to be felt Saturday night into Sunday morning, we could still have issues a little bit later on, even into Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah, and temperatures are still going to be very cold, well below average, Monday, Tuesday, even into Wednesday. You add gusts up to 30 miles an hour. Yeah, it's just going to be feeling frigid for the next couple of days. Brutal.
For sure. You can see a little bit of wet weather down to the south right now. Not a big deal there. We've been dry. Today is a day for folks to take care of preparations.
Yeah, you know, luckily yesterday and today the weather was pretty good for January.
60, the high yesterday.
Yeah, that felt. I was in a shorts and some t-shirts yesterday. It felt great. Today, not so much. It's cooler, but, you know, typical January day.
Upper 40s to near 50. That's pretty close to average. As we go through the overnight and into tomorrow, that colder air comes in, and here comes the snow as we look ahead to Saturday evening. This is 8 o'clock.
Yeah, you know, Saturday evening, Saturday night, start to see that snow filling on in, especially by 10, 11 o'clock, all of us getting in on some good snowfall.
Very steady and widespread. I think it starts to add up again. We could see maybe 3-4 inches for some parts of the south side, and then 3 to 6 up to the north. A little bit lower amounts down to the south. You see that transition to mix, and then the freezing rain potential continues farther inland. We'll see mainly rain here during the day on Sunday. It will exit as a little bit of mix, maybe late Sunday night into early Monday. After that, we just got to watch those winds and see how much ice we get. We'll take a quick look at the 7-day forecast here. And as we look ahead, again, our weather impact alert for the cold air tomorrow morning, bitterly cold, and then the snow tomorrow night, mix on Sunday, and then that mix exits early Monday. The precip finally winds down. Are you ready to go?
I'm ready for it, Craig.
Yeah, I think the whole team is. Yeah, we're going to have special extended coverage. We've got live impact news continuing on 13 News Now. Plus, I'm going to jump over there at 10 o'clock and join Marta Berglund. You're going to be in at 11, and then we'll have more coverage on air and online. Special coverage from our entire weather team, and the Daybreak crew will be back in Sunday morning to cover all of this for you, get you through this winter weather. Thanks for joining us here on the Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Craig Moeller along with meteorologist Hunter Forst. We'll see you next time.